John Adams was a man of principle in a time when principles were tested every day. He was the second president of the United States, but unlike the giant shadow left by George Washington, Adams' story is quieter, more complex, and in many ways, more human. His is a story of quiet courage, of unwavering conviction, and of a leader who often stood alone for what he believed was right. He was born on October 30th, 1735, in Braintree, Massachusetts, in a modest house where hard work and discipline were the rhythm of life. Young John was curious, restless, and deeply ambitious not for fame or fortune, but for justice and understanding. While other boys his age played, he was buried in books, studying law, and dreaming of a nation where fairness and reason mattered more than power or wealth. He could feel the world shifting beneath his feet. The revolution was coming, and John Adams wasn't just going to witness it, he was going to help shape it. When the storm of revolution finally broke, Adams didn't just rise to the challenge, he stood firm in its eye. In the Continental Congress, he was a driving force, arguing tirelessly for independence. His speeches, filled with conviction and powerful logic, swayed even the most cautious delegates. He wasn't a man known for his soaring oratory, but for the sheer force of his arguments. He wrote letters, drafted crucial documents, and negotiated in hallways and drawing rooms where the very future of America was being decided. History, it seemed, was holding its breath, and Adams was there, speaking truth to power. But it wasn't only courage that defined him, it was his wisdom and foresight. As the war raged on, Adams was sent to Europe, a world away from his home and family. There, he had to navigate the complex world of kings, queens, and seasoned diplomats, a lawyer from Massachusetts trying to secure loans and alliances for a fledgling nation that desperately needed them. He wasn't a natural diplomat, he was often seen as blunt and impatient. Yet, through sheer persistence and the strength of his cause, he succeeded. In every step he took, he carried the immense weight of a country that was not yet certain it would even survive. In 1797, he reached the pinnacle of his political career, becoming the second president of the United States. He inherited a nation that was still fragile, deeply divided by political factions, and teetering on the brink of another war, this time with France. The pressure was immense. Many in his own party, the Federalists, clamored for war. They believed it was a matter of national honor. It was the popular opinion, the easy path. But Adams thought differently. He saw the bigger picture. He knew that a young, vulnerable nation could not afford another devastating conflict. Against the tide of popular opinion, against the furious criticism from his own allies, he chose diplomacy. He sent peace envoys to France, risking his political career, his reputation, and his chance at re-election. He was ridiculed, called a coward, and attacked relentlessly in the press. But he held his ground. That single choice would come to define his presidency not because it brought him glory, but because it was the right thing to do. He steered the nation toward peace, and in doing so, he saved it. John Adams was not a man of showy charisma. He didn't have Washington's commanding presence or Jefferson's elegant charm. He could be stubborn, reserved, and at times sharp-tongued. But beneath that serious exterior lay a deep and profound sense of responsibility. He believed that leadership was a service, not a performance on a stage. It was about making tough, unpopular decisions for the long-term good of the country. His home life reflected this deep sense of partnership and duty. His wife, Abigail Adams, was not just his spouse. She was his closest partner, his most trusted advisor, and his intellectual equal. Their incredible collection of letters reveals a remarkable partnership of intellect and affection, where the personal and the political were deeply intertwined. She was his rock, his sounding board, and the person who understood the burdens he carried better than anyone else. Of course, his presidency wasn't without controversy. The most famous example is his signing of the Alien and Sedition Acts. These laws were passed during the Quasi-War with France and were designed to suppress dissent and criticism of the government. They were, and still are, seen as a dark stain on his legacy, a betrayal of the revolutionary principles he had fought for. It's a complex part of his story. Adams, ever the pragmatist, saw them as necessary measures to protect the nation's security in a time of crisis. He wrestled with the timeless tension between security and liberty, and he made a decision that he believed was for the nation's survival, not for popular applause. Then came the bitter election of 1800. After a brutal political campaign, Adams lost the presidency to his rival, Thomas Jefferson. In that moment, the new American experiment faced one of its greatest tests. The transfer of power from one political party to another had never happened before. Tensions were dangerously high. Adams could have resisted. He could have challenged the results or used his power to cling to office. But he didn't. He stepped aside quietly. He packed his bags and left Washington, becoming the first president to peacefully hand over power to an opponent. In that quiet act, he demonstrated the true measure of leadership. It's not about holding onto power, but about ensuring the system you built is stronger than any one individual. He left a government that was stable and a precedent that has defined American democracy ever since. He returned to his farm in Massachusetts, becoming a private citizen once again. He spent his final years writing, reading, reflecting, and corresponding with old friends and rivals, including Thomas Jefferson. Their late-life reconciliation through letters is one of the most touching stories in American history. Two giants who had clashed so fiercely found common ground once again in their shared love for the nation they had created. And then, in a twist of fate so perfect it seems scripted, on July 4, 1826, the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, John Adams passed away. His last words were reportedly, "Thomas Jefferson survives." He didn't know that Jefferson had actually passed away just a few hours earlier on that very same day. Two architects of a nation, departing the world together, as if history itself had planned a final, poignant tribute. John Adams may not have had the towering presence of Washington or the fiery charisma of Jefferson, but his story is no less remarkable. His is a legacy of courage, of deep principle, of profound wisdom, and of a quiet, stubborn determination. He shows us that true leadership isn't always celebrated with parades or grand monuments. Sometimes it's felt in the difficult, unpopular choices that protect, guide, and preserve a nation for all the generations to come. He was the president who chose peace when others wanted war, who stepped aside when others might have clung to power, and who dedicated his entire life to the service of an ideal. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the figures who shaped our world. See you next time.